Welcome back. Let's continue our coverage and set the tone for budget, which starts next week. Aadhar Housing Finance is the company on our radar. The company listed on the exchanges just a couple of months back. And the management that time had said that they're confident about sustaining a 20% growth. But to talk about growth and what the expectation from the budget is, we have Rishi Anand, MD and CEO of Aadhar Housing Finance with us. Mr. Anand, thank you for joining in. This is Reema here. First, lay out the expectations. Now, you've carved a niche for yourself in affordable housing. That's expected to, have a lion's thrust in the upcoming budget. What is your expectation? Specific schemes, if you could lay that out for us.
Right. Thank you, Reema, for having me back. Yes, I see a lot of traction happening on the pre-budget discussions. I was hearing a while back, Mr. Chatterjee speaking about the cement industry, etc. As far as housing goes, housing broadly, is an economic growth driver, which all of us know. But it also, if you look at it, it impacts various sectors, right from the housing finance companies that are the cement industry, the steel industry, and it is an employment generator. So housing overall, that drives that strength of economic growth. Now, when it comes to expectations, I think the industry as a whole has laid down multiple expectations, right from looking at income tax benefits, enhancing those limits, separate sections. We have talked about redefining the priority sector limits in metros and non-metros. We have talked about redefining the EWS LIG's income limits. And more importantly, and the most talked about, the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana scheme.
Okay. In the Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana specifically, can you tell us, what is it that you're expecting?
Reema, this scheme was, if you recall, and I had mentioned this earlier also, this scheme was available until March 22. And in the pre-budget announcement, interim budget announcement, the FM had indicated the scheme should be back with better contours. Having said that, there are broadly four portions to the PMAY scheme. One, and the most important one, is the CLSS, which is Credit Linked Subsidy Scheme. Then we have the second section, which is affordable housing in partnership. We have beneficiary-led construction, and finally the in situ slum development. For a moment, let me talk about only CLSS, because that impacts the end users directly through intermediaries like us. If you recall, the CLSS subsidy scheme had a limit of 2,67,000 per end user. I think the demand or the request to the FM has been to enhance this 2,67,000 to about 3 lakh rupees. And more importantly, in the previous scheme, the extent of coverage was only 21,000 locations, and there has been request from industry bodies in the housing finance to enhance this coverage to more locations, at least minimum of 50,000 locations.
Okay, so the limit goes up, right? I mean, from 2.67 lakh
to 3 lakhs. That's the request. That's the request.
And of course, number of locations where this is in use, that also should be more than doubled. That's been the request.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, and you've kind of made, the industry, I'm assuming, has made these representations during the pre-budget consultations.
We have, at multiple forums, we've made these representations, Prashant.
Okay, got it. If there is widespread expectation that since this is an industry with multiplier effect, and the government is looking at ways to exactly do that, what kind of impact can we see if, say, as you yourself said, the specific demands are met on the CLSS side? I'm not even talking about the other three aspects of the PMAY scheme. What kind of impact can it have on credit growth for companies like you?
See, Prashant, if I can, quote some numbers which will be very helpful for the audience when it comes to Aadhar Housing Finance. In the previous scheme, we extended a subsidy of approximately 1,800 crores, which impacted lives of approximately 82,000 individuals, which is approximately 50+% of my housing finance book. So that is the kind of impact we are talking about. 50% of a book of 21,000 crores gets impacted by the subsidy scheme, even if it is 2.667 lakhs to the end user. If it gets enhanced and if the requests are met, I am I'm falling short of words, but it should be beyond 50% of my additional book as we go ahead. And so for the industry.
Right, 50% of your additional book could be impacted. I mean, in the sense that you could
impacted.
It could give a boost to that much in terms of credit that you make.
That's right. And I'll tell you why. Because, companies like us, we cater only to the EWS LIG segment. 72% of our book happens to be in the EWS LIG segment. Hence, the penetration levels are very high.
So what can growth rate get boosted to if we do get this incremental benefit coming in the budget?
That's right. That's right. It gets boosted completely.
No, by how much? Do you want to put some numbers to this?
Also, so on an incremental basis, we are looking at anywhere between 10 to 15% of my incremental business getting enhanced by this scheme.
And Ms. Anand, what are you factoring in terms of AUM growth as it is, irrespective of whether this comes or not for the coming year, FY25?
Nigel, in the last interaction also I indicated, last 2 years we've been growing at about 23-24% on our AUM. And given the strong demand, the benefits that are going to come up after the budget, I don't see any reason why we should shortfall of 23-24% incremental AUM growth.
And if there are some tweaks in the budget, then maybe in fact you can do even better than that.
Touch wood, yes, definitely.
Okay, all right. A couple of quick aspects. You raise some money via the QIP route. How does it change things, your ratios, as well as how much does it reduce your cost of funds?
From a ratio perspective, the only ratio that gets impacted for a couple of years is the return on equity, which is from an 18.4 as last reported in March 24, falls to about 17.4, 17.5% for a couple of years, and we should be quickly back into the 18% plus ratio.
Okay, and cost of funds?
So cost of fund will not see a major impact as we move ahead. I think anywhere between 20 to 30 bips impact is what we are seeing.
And you're looking at NIMs of around 8 to 8.5%, right?
We continue to look at 8.5% plus NIMs.
You said you expect the number of locations to increase under PMAY. Currently, it's 21,000. In the budget expectation or the representations that you've made to the government, how many locations do you now want covered?
We should look at, and when we talk about these locations, Reema, we are not talking about rural locations at all. We are talking about, roadside towns, small talukas, small districts, and anywhere between a good number to have under this populous scheme should be about 40,000 locations.
So doubling it.
That's right.
And how has asset quality been for you? It was under control when we've spoken to you last. But in the last 3 months, has there been any incremental stress that you've observed, or has it gotten better?
So I would say, it is a very seasonal kind of asset quality movement that we see in our industry. And we are completely on the track. As you remember, and you rightly said, we closed the year March 24 at 1.08% GNPA numbers, which are well within our budgeted discussions.
All right, we'll leave it there. Ms. Anand, great to have you with us here. And I hope we can have you on the day of the budget. Once the announcements are out and the speech is made, it'll be lovely to get your reactions to what is announced. And hopefully some of what we discussed does come through for the sector. Thanks very much for joining us. That is
very helpful. Thank you, Prashant.
Thanks very much. That's the manager of Aadhar Housing Finance with some perspective on hopes for the housing finance sector.